Okay, there it is. Good morning. Welcome back after a week away. This is the House Human Services Committee, and today we are going to have a short time, about a half hour, to discuss with Legislative Counsel Katie McGlynn the edits on H222, which is an act relating to reducing oversights. Sorry, drug. I want to make sure I said reducing overdoses. Thanks. So Katie, if you want to get us started.
Sure. Good morning.
Morning.
Katie McGlynn, Office of Legislative Counsel. I don't know if I have screen share.
Oh, you will.
Okay, great.
And we already sort of had a blip in the electricity here. So if that happens, for those if anyone's watching us online, we will stop until we have it back, and then we'll come back on. Thanks.
Okay. So since we have last met, there has been a strike all amendment put together on H222. What I've gone ahead and done is highlighted where the changes are from the languages introduced, but I know it's been a while since you have seen this bill, so it might be worthwhile just to go over the whole bill. Okay, so the first sort of sections of the bill are on syringe disposal. And right now there's existing language on an unused prescription drug disposal program, and this adds syringe disposal to that. So the Department of Health shall establish and maintain the statewide unused prescription drug and syringe disposal program to provide for the safe disposal of Vermont's residents' unused and unwanted prescription drugs and syringes. And the program may include establishing secure collection and disposal sites and providing medication envelopes for sending unused prescription drugs to an authorized collection facility for destruction. So that language you've seen. What you haven't seen is this new section 2. These are regional, it pertains to regional stakeholder meetings. So by the end of this calendar year, the Department of Health, the Department in the Blueprint for Health's Accountable Communities for Health shall facilitate a series of regional stakeholder meetings regarding public syringe disposal programs. The meeting shall include representatives from municipalities, hospitals, and substance use disorder service providers with the goal of determining the appropriate placement of public syringe disposal programs based on local needs and best practices. I'm going to pause to write myself a note that should be Department of Health in that first line. Okay, and then in subsection B, on or before January 15th of 2024, the department shall present information to the House Committee on Human Services and to the Senate Committee on Health and Welfare regarding the progress of the regional stakeholder meetings required pursuant to this section and the statewide establishment of public syringe disposal programs. And then we have a new section 3 header, but
do you want to do questions for in between each section?
And anything the committee wants to do is fine with me.
So I'm just wondering about that timeline. They're supposed to start them by December 31st and then report by January 15th, 2 weeks later on the progress.
I think the idea was that they would have completed them so that by December they will have had. I see your point though.
Yeah, the way it's worded, it's on or before December 31st, they'll facilitate.
Yeah.
The purpose was more like
By.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Shall have facilitated, basically, yeah.
So by, shall have facilitated. Okay, thank you.
Great. Anybody, any other questions about this? Can I just a quick, well, I could ask you later, Representative. I just wondered, does the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, are they going to comment on this?
We have invited them in on it, and I believe they weren't able to attend on the day that we first did a walkthrough, but we'll invite their comments.
Okay, just now it seems a little more like, okay, thank you.
Okay, so section 3 is a new section heading, but you've seen the text before. This had been embedded in section 1, but as it's a 1-year appropriation, it really belongs in session year. So I've pulled it out separately. So section 3, appropriation for the community syringe disposal programs. In fiscal year 2024, $325,000 is appropriated from the GF to the Department of Health's Division of Substance Use Programs to provide grants and consultations for municipalities, hospitals, community health centers, and other community syringe disposal programs available to the public. Next, section 4, this is a section on opioid antagonists. It amends language that's in existing law. A previous version you saw replaced the term victim with survivor, and the committee decided not to take that amendment. So you'll see that that struck through. When I give you a clean version, you won't see survivor anymore, but just to refresh your memory about what that change was, I've included it. And then in subsection B, we have a list of responsibilities that the department has to develop and implement a prevention, intervention, response strategy depending on available resources. So in subsection 1, the existing language is to provide educational materials on opioid overdose prevention to the public free of charge, and it also currently reads, including to substance abuse treatment providers, healthcare providers, opioid users, and family members of opioid users. So that would be removed. No change to subdivision 2. And subdivision 3, increased timely access to treatment services for opioid users, including medication for opioid use disorder instead of MIT. And then in subdivision 4, this is highlighted because an earlier draft had removed this subdivision 4A, and now this new version retains the existing language in 4A. So that language is to educate substance abuse treatment providers on methods to prevent opioid overdoses. Would you like to trade that to
Substance use.
Yeah.
We all saw.
Yeah.
And can I ask another question real quick? Just wondering, on 3, increased timely access to treatment services for opioid users, including medication for opioid use disorder. What other treatment or access would that be?
Yeah, so the only real change here is looking at the medication assisted treatment has been MAT has been kind of the term used, and just recently they've changed that to MOUD, medication for opioid use disorder, to be more specific.
To make us more confused.
Yeah, exactly. So basically increased timely access to treatment services for opioid users. Treatment also includes other clinical support services like seeing a licensed caseworker and things like that.
Therapy.
Group session, okay.
Okay. And then no changes in the existing subdivision 4B, provide education and training on overdose prevention, intervention, and response to individuals living with, I misspoke, there is a change, with opioid addiction versus just addiction, and participating in opioid treatment programs, syringe exchange programs, residential drug treatment programs, or correctional services. And subdivision 5, removing the existing language, facilitate overdose prevention, drug treatment, and addiction recovery services by implementing and expanding, and instead start with implement and expand hospital referral services for individuals treated for an opioid overdose. And subdivision 6, develop a statewide opioid antagonist program versus pilot program that emphasizes access to opioid antagonists to and for the benefit of individuals with opioid use disorder instead of a history of opioid use disorder. And then 2 new subdivisions. First and 7, distribute opioid antagonists to entities in a position to assist those at risk of experiencing an opioid-related overdose. And
Question real quick. In B, it's opioid addiction, but in 6, it's opioid use disorder.
We can make it opioid use disorder and
okay. Okay, thank you. Subdivision 8, establish opioid antagonist dispensing kiosks in locations accessible to those at risk of experiencing an opioid-related overdose. And then subsection C, we're making some changes to use gender-neutral language. The healthcare professional acting in good faith and within the professional scope of practice may directly or by standing order prescribe, dispense, and distribute an opioid antagonist to the following persons. We're getting rid of the language, provided the person has been educated about opioid-related overdose prevention and treatment in a manner approved by the department. So we have the list of individuals. And we don't have changes there. Then in subsection D, again, we have, we're reverting to victim versus survivor. A person may administer an opioid antagonist to a victim if the person believes in good faith that the victim is experiencing an opioid-related overdose. In subdivision D2, again, we're on line 19 using gender-neutral language. At the top of page 6, reverting to victim versus survivor. In subsection F, reverting to victim versus survivor. And on line 16, instead of substance abuse treatment services, substance use disorder treatment services.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Keep moving. So the next set of sections is operation of syringe service programs. So we have section 6, which amends existing law. And this is language that you saw last year in your bill H728 that moved out of this committee. So this has the definition of drug paraphernalia. And drug paraphernalia does not include needles, syringes, or other harm reduction supplies distributed or possessed as part of an organized community-based needle exchange program. And then you have language in section 6, and this amends existing law. So this pertains to opioid addiction treatment system. In subsection B, there's new language in subdivision B2. A medical assessment shall not require a patient to consume medications either through MedWatch, which is FDA Form 350 or otherwise, in order to verify allergic or otherwise adverse reactions to the medications.
Just a quick question. Representative Hyman brought up top, just as far as the title change. I didn't thought to change the title of the statute, but it could be opioid use disorder
Yeah,
treatment.
I like that. We should be consistent.
I think one thing that's at play is that the substance use disorder sections haven't been adopted all at once as a package, and the terminology changes. So yes, we should sort of be mindful as we go through to try to use the same terminology when we can. Okay, so I've made a note.
On line 17, there's the same thing.
Oh, really?
Addiction.
Addiction. Okay.
And line 1 on page 8.
Disorder.
Just got notification that power's out at home.
Jill just emailed.
Your home, not your home.
Oh,
Jill just sent an email to everyone about ceasing operations if the power goes out.
Yeah, we have 2 down there.
Okay.
It's very right in front of our house.
So then section 7, this is a new section that the committee has not seen yet. So this adds a new section. This has to do with buprenorphine either being initiated on a prescription or the prescription being renewed and having the ability to do that via telehealth. So to the extent permitted under federal law, a healthcare professional authorized to prescribe buprenorphine for the treatment of substance use disorder may initiate a patient's buprenorphine prescription without requiring an office visit, provided the health professional conducts a visit with the patient by telemedicine as defined or by audio-only telephone. And the healthcare professional may authorize the renewal of a patient's existing buprenorphine prescription without requiring an office visit, provided that the healthcare professional conducts a visit with the patient by telemedicine or by audio-only telephone. Any questions? Okay. Next, it has to do with prior authorization of MAT for Medicaid beneficiaries.
So there's MAT. Are we switching that?
Well, what do you mean? Are we getting rid of MAT?
Yeah,
Before
so
we had,
it would be medication for opioid use disorder. It might be good to hear Diva's
Yeah.
feedback.
whether for this purpose, it needs to be the
Because
narrower.
it's prior authorization.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
I won't change it at this point and we can flag it. Okay. So this language reads that AHS shall provide coverage to Medicaid beneficiaries for medically necessary MAT for opioid use disorder when prescribed by a healthcare professional practicing within the scope of the professional's license and participating in the Medicaid program. Pending approval of the Drug Utilization Review Board, the agency shall cover at least one medication in each therapeutic class of methadone, buprenorphine, and naltrexone as listed on Medicaid's preferred drug list without requiring prior authorization. While I'm thinking of it, before we change all the references to MAT, I'm pretty sure in this chapter there is a definition of MAT. So we might want to be consistent and change it throughout the chapter if that's where you're headed.
Yeah, and just one other factor within this is it's not as clean of a change to medication for opioid use disorder because there's also MAT for alcohol use. So it's just, we need to think about it.
Okay. The definition in this chapter, I think, is specific to opioid use.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't still be careful as we sort of make
Yeah,
changes.
that's interesting. We
Yeah.
should think about that and ask some questions maybe in the department. Okay, thank you.
So the next section is on recovery residences. So this is language that you've seen. This really is in our zoning title. So outside of Title 18 and 33, where we usually work in this committee, this is that a residential care home or group home to be operated under state licensing or registration, serving not more than 8 persons who have a disability, and a recovery residence serving not more than 8 persons shall be considered to constitute a single family residential use of property. So you'll see that we've struck through the definition because that cross-reference, or we've struck through the cross-reference because the cross-reference does not exist. And we've just embedded the definition right here. As used in this subdivision, recovery residence means a shared living residence supporting persons recovering from a substance use disorder that provides tenants with peer support, an environment that prohibits the use of alcohol and the illegal use of prescription drugs or other illegal substances, and assistance accessing support services and community resources available to persons recovering from substance use disorders. Is certified by an organization that is a Vermont affiliate of the National Alliance for Recovery Residences or obtains a preliminary certification within 45 days of operation and adheres to the national standards established by the Alliance or its successor in interest, including duty of care standards. If there's no successor in interest, the Department of Health shall designate a certifying organization to uphold appropriate standards for recovery housing. So as you know, there's a standalone recovery residence bill, both this year and in bienniums past. And so this language with the definition was taken out of those bills.
So this is another area where the Vermont League of Cities and Towns meets.
They already commented.
They did, okay, I missed some of our testimony, so that's good to hear. So they were good.
They had 2 points of feedback.
Okay.
Let's look at their
Okay,
notes.
I can go back and do that. And I brought this up last night at a community meeting and people were very supportive. People in the community, and it was an interesting conversation.
I had the same experience. We have a few kind of falling under this in the group home kind of in our area that have been really successful parts of our community. So I think people were excited about this process.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
So the next is the removal of a future appeal of the buprenorphine exception. This is the piece that you worked with Michelle on in the past. So this essentially repeals the repeal. And then we have an effective date section. So the act itself takes effect on passage, but then the MAT piece for Medicaid beneficiaries shall take effect on September 1st, 2023. And that is Bill.
Wow, and you did it in 51 minutes. I mean, 30, no, 21 minutes, sorry. I was like off by an hour here.
It's the daylight savings.
There is a bill for that.
I know my kids were like, why haven't you all gotten that done yet? I'm like,
Well, there's opposing bills.
oh, yeah.
Oh,
So Massachusetts and New York are all,
Done.
yeah,
Oh, are they done?
They did?
yeah. This is their
So
last
what time
year.
is it?
Oh, interesting.
It's
They-
9:50.
I think
Oh,
it's.
so do we have to calculate time now when we're talking?
When you cross the border
When you cross that.
in either direction.
What about if you're like making a flight and you're flying through JFK now?
Well, it's the same as when you fly to
Fly to
Chicago or
Arizona,
San Francisco,
yeah.
you know, you gotta readjust.
Your phones and your watches do it for you. So anyhow, to come back to this very,
Sorry.
Slide it right
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Nobody will notice.
is there any thoughts, comments? It sounds like we're getting very close.
Yeah, I would say that it came to mind, one thing that I did not include that was suggested was for the MedWatch form, to have that be more focused on within the prior authorization realm. So maybe, and think about how we could move that to be more like, or maybe in addition, that a prior authorization shall not require
Yes, that's in the
this
other.
information. But that's just, we're gonna have more testimony on prior auth, and there might be some further work.
Tweaking, yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, because that's in the original bill, right, the MedWatch. Definitely important as well, another big conversation at our community meeting, why we do that for this drug and no other, or for this kind of treatment and no other treatment. So, great, I think that we have done our work for this morning, unless there's anything anyone would like to add. Welcome, James.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay, we have some visitors for the day today, and I thought maybe we could introduce ourselves and they could introduce themselves to us. How does, because since we have a little extra time, we might as well do it. So, hi, I'm Jessica Brumstead, and I represent Shelburne and St. George. It's nice to meet you.
Taylor Small, representing the state. Glad to have you both with me today.
I'm Ray Garofano. I represent Essex and Essex Action. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Noah Hyman from South Burlington and Williston.
Kelly Piala from Londonderry and also have Andover, Weston, and Winhall.
I am Jubilee McGill. I'm from Bridport and represent also Weybridge, Middlebury, and New Haven.
James Gregoire Fairfield, Fletcher, and Bakersfield.
Ann Donahue, Northfield and Berlin.
I am Lori, the committee assistant.
And then,
So nice to meet you all. I'm Kayla. I'm a fourth year medical student at UVM and just matched into obstetrics and gynecology.
great.
Also a fourth year at UVM and a member in pediatrics.
Oh, wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Really exciting to
At
be here.
UVM for pediatrics?
that's great. And you're going to be here all day?
Yes.
All
So we're
right.
back again for discussions.
Yeah, we
this
have a
afternoon.
lot going on this afternoon
say
and
that
caucuses, all kinds of things happening today. So great to have everyone back. I guess,
Keep power.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as we keep power, right.